Welcome, everyone. Today, we're doing a deep dive into a really crucial document for anyone in the pharmaceutical world, the FDA's Investigations Operations Manual. You might hear it called the IOM.
That's right. Think of it as, well, the FDA's internal roadmap for how they actually go about inspecting pharmaceutical facilities.
Exactly. And we're going to unpack what this means for you, especially if you're working in quality, regulatory affairs, or compliance.
Understanding the IOM, and we'll focus a lot on chapters 5, which covers inspections, and 8 on investigations, well, it gives you a real edge. It's about getting inside the inspector's mindset.
How they approach their job.
Precisely. And it's particularly relevant now, given the recent changes at the FDA.
You mean the shift from ORA to OII?
Yes, exactly. The Office of Regulatory Affairs, ORA, has transitioned into the new Office of Inspections and Investigations, or OII.
Which sounds like it puts an even bigger spotlight on the inspection side of things.
It certainly seems that way. Having OII as a standalone office really underscores how vital these inspections are for, well, ensuring drug quality and safety.
Makes sense. So our mission today, if you will, is to arm you with practical insights pulled straight from the IOM and related guidelines. The goal, to make you feel more prepared for that next FDA inspection.
Okay, where should we start? Pre-inspection.
Yeah, let's dive into that pre-inspection phase. Chapter 5 of the IOM talks about this. What kind of homework are FDA investigators doing before they even show up?
Oh, quite a bit, actually. It's not like they just decide to drop by. They meticulously review a whole range of data points related to your firm.
Okay.
And it's not just a quick scan. It's a targeted effort to really understand your compliance history and, importantly, potential risk areas.
So what are they looking at specifically?
Things like past inspection results, any warning letters, your Form 483s, the establishment inspection reports, or EIRs. They're essentially building a preliminary risk profile of your site.
Right, so if a company keeps having issues in, say, their KPA system,
That's definitely going to be on their radar. They'll likely focus on that during the inspection. It's about patterns.
so it's not just counting observations, it's the kind of observations and whether they repeat.
Exactly. They're also looking at other intelligence, maybe adverse event reports, complaint data, any recalls you've had. It gives them a more holistic picture of how effective your quality system really is.
And this risk profile you mentioned,
hmm
how does the FDA figure that out? It can't just be past issues, right?
No, it's definitely more nuanced. Past compliance is a big piece, sure, but they also consider the complexity of what you manufacture.
Like sterile products versus oral tablets.
Precisely. And the patient population are these drugs for critical conditions. They also look at, recent regulatory changes that might apply to you.
So a firm making sterile injectables might naturally be seen as higher risk.
Generally, yes, because of the inherent risks involved. This whole pre-inspection risk assessment really shapes the inspection's depth, the scope, and even how many resources they assign to it.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So they've done their homework, they arrive. IOM Chapter 5.5 gets into the inspection itself. Can you walk us through the usual steps?
Sure. It almost always starts with a formal entrance meeting.
Right, they kick off.
Yeah. The lead investigator introduces the team, shows their credentials, and states the purpose and scope of the inspection clearly.
And this is where the company introduces its key people, too.
Exactly. Your SMEs, the site head, QA leadership. Setting a collaborative professional tone right from the start is, well, it's usually beneficial.
Good advice. What comes after the meeting?
Typically, a facility tour.
Ah, yes, the walkthrough. It can feel a bit like being under a microscope, can't it? What are they really looking for?
They are. It's a detailed look at your adherence to cGMP's current good manufacturing practices. They're observing the physical plant, the layout, the flow of materials, personnel flow.
To prevent mix-ups or contamination.
Exactly. Also the condition of equipment, general state of repair, cleanliness. And crucially, are people actually following procedures in real time? They're looking for vulnerabilities that could impact product quality.
Like, are the clean rooms operating correctly? Are materials stored properly?
Yes, all of that. Are environmental controls working? Are gowning procedures followed? It's a visual check against the written procedures.
Okay, so after the tour, it seems like a lot of time gets spent on paperwork.
Hmm?
The IOM really stresses record review. Which documents get the most scrutiny?
Record review is absolutely central. Documents are the objective evidence of how your quality system works or doesn't work, right? They'll definitely prioritize batch production and control records. These basically tell the story of every single batch.
From start to finish.
Yep. And validation protocols and reports are also critical. They need to see proof that your processes are robust, reliable, and consistently make quality product.
And the IOM specifically calls that drug-specific protocols too in chapters 5.0 and 8.3.
It does. For drug manufacturers, things like specific testing data, adherence to the approved process, that's paramount. Think of the batch record as the recipe and validation as proof the recipe works every time. They check these meticulously against your approved procedures. Are they complete, accurate, any unexplained deviations?
Batch records and validation. Definitely key.
Yeah.
What else is on their checklist?
Oh, plenty. Equipment logs, maintenance, calibration records to show your equipment is fit for use. Training records are vital. Is your staff qualified?
Makes sense.
Your standard operating procedures, SOPs, do they reflect reality? Are they current? And a big one, deviation in KP records. How do you handle problems? Do you fix them effectively? Do you prevent them from happening again?
So all these documents together should ideally show a system that's under control and hopefully improving.
That's the goal. It should paint that picture.
Okay, another key part is interviewing people on site. What should teams keep in mind during those conversations?
Interviews are really the chance for your team to explain the why behind the what's in the documents, to provide context.
Right.
The IOM really emphasizes gathering accurate and consistent information. So investigators might talk to people in different roles, production, QC, engineering.
To see if the story holds together.
Essentially, yes. It's crucial that your team knows their procedures well and can explain them clearly and consistently. Inconsistencies, they definitely raise red flags for an investigator.
And besides talking to people, they're also just watching operations, right? What are they looking for then?
When they're observing, they're basically comparing what they see happening on the floor with what's written in your SOPs.
So theory versus practice.
Exactly. Are people following the steps correctly? Are they using the right equipment? Complying with GMP basics like gowning or line clearance? They're looking for deviations from your own established procedures or, any unsafe practices.
Okay, so they're gathering all this information, documents, interviews, observations. Now we get to IOM 5.6, evidence development. How do they document what they find? And what's the important difference we need to grasp here?
Right. Investigators are trained to be objective. They stick to the facts, what they saw, what the record showed. They document evidence.
Not opinions.
Correct. And a key distinction is between an observation and a violation. An observation is something they note that might point to a potential issue. A violation is a more definite conclusion that a specific regulation wasn't met.
And this leads us to the Form FDA 483.
The famous, or perhaps infamous, 483. Yes.
What does getting a 483 actually mean for a company?
Receiving a Form FDA 483, which is officially titled Inspectional Observations, means the investigators identified conditions during the inspection that, in their judgment, may violate the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act or related regs.
So it's not a final judgment, but it's serious.
Very serious. It's a formal list of concerns that absolutely requires a timely and thorough response from the company. It clearly signals where the FDA sees problems that need fixing.
And the IOM guides them on how to write these observations.
It does. It stresses objective evidence.
Yeah.
There's even language in there essentially saying FDA investigators must never speculate on compliance status. It has to be based on facts, on evidence, no guesswork.
Got it. Okay. Inspection's over. Maybe a 483 was issued. What happens next? The reporting stage. IOM 5.7.
So after they leave your site, the investigators compile everything into a detailed establishment inspection report, the EIR.
This is the full story of the inspection.
Pretty much. It outlines all their observations, findings, evidence collected. This EIR then goes for review within the relevant FDA center, CDER for drugs, CBER for biologics.
And reviewers there look at it.
Yes. Experts at the center assess the significance of the findings in the EIR. They look at the potential impact on product quality and patient safety. And based on that review, they determine the final classification of the inspection.
What are the possible classifications or outcomes?
Well, the best case is NAI, no action indicated. Means they didn't find significant issues, no further action needed. Then there's VAI, voluntary action indicated. This means some issues were noted, maybe less serious ones, and the FDA expects the firm to fix them voluntarily. You still need to act, though.
Right. And the most serious?
That's OAI, official action indicated. This signals significant problems, serious noncompliance. An OAI classification often leads to further regulatory actions.
Like warning letters.
Exactly. Warning letters are a common outcome following an OAI classification. And eventually, the firm usually gets a copy of the EIR itself, though sometimes redacted.
OAI and warning letters sound like they have major consequences. We see companies get them. How directly do those flow from the inspection findings?
Very directly. Warning letters are issued for significant cGMP violations demanding immediate correction. The observations documented first on the 483 and then detailed in the EIR form the basis for that warning letter.
And they spell out the problems.
Clearly, they detail the specific deficiencies found and require the company to provide a plan for corrective actions, usually within 15 working days. And these letters are public, which can really impact a company's reputation, stock price, future approvals.
Definitely serious. Okay, let's zoom in a bit on drug manufacturing inspections. You mentioned IOM 5.9 on an 8.3 plus general cGMPs. What are some unique focus areas there?
For drugs, data integrity is huge right now, and likely will continue to be.
Meaning?
Investigators scrutinize records, both electronic and paper, to make sure they're accurate, complete, reliable, attributable, the whole ALCOA plus principles.
Checking audit trails and electronic systems.
Absolutely. They want to see who did what, when, why. Can data be changed without a record? Are calculations verified? It's critical.
Okay, data integrity. What else?
Batch records, again, a really meticulous review. Did you follow the master record exactly? Is every step documented? Are deviations fully investigated and explained? Also, validation comes under intense scrutiny.
Process validation. Cleaning validation.
Both. They need to see robust scientific evidence that your manufacturing processes consistently deliver quality product and that your cleaning prevents cross-contamination. It has to be solid proof.
And for sterile drugs.
Sterility assurance is absolutely paramount. They'll dig deep into your sterilization processes, your environmental monitoring program, the EM data, your aseptic techniques, media fills, anything related to preventing microbial contamination. The stakes are incredibly high there.
Right. Okay, to make this feel even more real, maybe we can walk through a couple of scenarios, sort of composite case studies.
Good idea.
Let's imagine a company, Proactive Pharma. They really took the IOM seriously, studied it, built their internal systems around its principles. What might an inspection look like for them?
Okay, Proactive Pharma. They didn't just wait for the FDA. They used the IOM proactively. They understood the pre-inspection focus, so they routinely analyzed their own data deviations, CKPAs, complaints, looking for the kinds of trends an investigator would spot.
So they tried to anticipate the focus.
Exactly. Their documentation was organized, easy to find. Their internal audits weren't just checklists. They focused on objective evidence, just like the IOM requires.
How so?
Well, an internal auditor wouldn't just tick CAPA closed. They'd verify the records prove the corrective action was effective, that the evidence was there. They mirrored the FDA approach.
So when the real inspection happened,
They were ready. The entrance meeting was smooth. The facility tour showcased good practices. Records were pulled quickly and were complete. Their team members, because they were trained, gave consistent answers during interviews.
and the outcome.
Likely minimal observations, maybe none significant, a potential NAI or VAI classification, a direct result of being proactive and IOM informed.
That's the goal. Now, the flip side, a company we'll call Reactive RX. They didn't really pay much attention to the IOM's perspective. What could go wrong?
For Reactive RX, the inspection could be, well, painful. Maybe their documents are messy, hard to locate. Batch record reviews might have been superficial internally, missing things. Validation might be incomplete or poorly documented.
So when the FDA asks for something,
It takes ages to find it, or it's incomplete. Maybe different people give conflicting information because they weren't prepped or aren't consistently following procedures. They might not grasp the need for objective evidence.
for example,
Their batch records might have missing entries or deviations that weren't properly investigated. Their validation might lack statistical justification or cover only best-case scenarios. This kind of thing leads directly to 483 observations, incomplete records, inadequate validation, poor deviation handling.
and potentially worse.
Absolutely. If the issues are systemic or critical, especially around things like data integrity or sterility assurance, it could easily escalate to an OAI and a warning letter, all because they didn't understand the framework the investigators were using.
Okay, really useful contrast. So
Yeah.
boiling it all down for our listeners in quality, in RA, and compliance,
Yeah.
what are the absolute key practical takeaways from this IOM deep dive?
Number one, recognize the IOM isn't just an FDA document, it's your resource too. It tells you the rules of the game. Get familiar with chapters 5 and 8 especially.
Know thy inspector's playbook.
Essentially, yes. Second, infuse that IOM thinking into your internal systems, particularly your internal audits. Ask, What objective evidence would an FDA investigator need to see here?
Don't just check the box.
Right. Focus on robust, retrievable documentation that tells the whole quality story clearly.
And what about preparing the people, the teams on the ground?
Training is key. Train people on how to interact professionally and effectively with investigators. Stress accuracy, consistency, truthfulness, practice.
Mock inspections.
Definitely. Simulate the real thing. Document requests under pressure. Facility walkthroughs where you actively look for issues. Practice interviews. Get key documents organized before they arrive.
And during the inspection itself.
Be professional, cooperative. Respond promptly. Keep communication clear and open with the inspection team. Assign scribes. Manage requests centrally.
This has been incredibly helpful. It really drives home that the IOM, the Investigations Operations Manual, is far more than just an internal FDA guide. It's a vital tool for industry.
It absolutely is. Proactive preparation, really guided by understanding the IOM's principles, that's the foundation for successful FDA inspections. It's about seeing things from their perspective and aligning your systems.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening today. How could really internalizing the investigator's perspective, the one laid out in the IOM, fundamentally change how you approach quality and compliance day to day? Think about how that shift could ultimately strengthen your contribution to delivering safe, effective medicines. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.